Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to webisode number 41 of the Deep Issues podcast. It's day 5659 in the search for Tim Shovelday. I'm your host, Josh Houselander. With me, as always, producer extraordinaire Adam Hernandez and our Deep Issues expert, Ed. How's it going, guys?
Pretty good.
Cool. Tonight's topic is Jeffrey Epstein and all of the Jeffrey Epstein scandals. Not scandal, but the Jeffrey Epstein scandals, if you will, because there is a ton that surrounds this. Some people may kind of think that this is old news. We're hitting this topic too late. I disagree, actually, with that assessment. In fact, we've wanted to do a show on this for a while, but I wanted to wait a while. I wanted to wait a while till things came out, till the smoke started to clear, to see if anything it really came of it, which it basically didn't. But that's why we're kind of have waited on this show. And,
is that surprising?
No, it's not. It's not. But I didn't really want to do it while it was the meme craze. You know, I wanted to wait a while to do this. We're gonna bounce around a lot tonight, talking about different aspects of these scandals. But one thing I do want to say to kind of get it out of the way, one thing we're not really going to debate a whole lot here. We might talk about the ifs and whens and hows and all that stuff surrounding it, but the idea that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Now, do I have rock solid evidence here to present to you that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself? No, I don't, but we know he did not. Again, how, why, when, where, all that good stuff. We don't know that, and we're going to talk about that tonight. But I want people to know that, yeah, if you want to call this a bias, you can call it a bias. But, yeah, we will be looking at this topic from the eyes of someone who has acknowledged that Jeffrey Epstein most certainly did not kill himself. Did he die in that jail cell? Did he? There's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. But, like I said, we will be acting as fact. I want to give a shout-out. I'm one of these people, but I'm not trying to do this to be self-serving. I want to give a shout-out to all the people in the world who shitposted about this, basically. Because, let's face it, the media was not going to cover this. They were not going to talk about this. This was going to be completely and utterly swept under the rug. And if it weren't for the shitposting meme lords out there who kept this going and insisted on keeping it in the public eye, this would be completely forgotten about.
You know, I think if there's something positive that really came from this whole thing, it's that this really, really might be something that has woken up a lot of people, because you see just it was relentless. Just everything was, and Epstein didn't kill himself. Like, people would have their 10 seconds of fame and they would end it with, and Epstein didn't kill himself. Like, right. Every meme, but you just saw it everywhere. There's not a person, maybe there's a handful out there, who doesn't think that he actually killed. Nobody thinks that he killed himself, first of all, but everybody now knows exactly that he was basically involved in this big pedophile ring and all this other stuff. And not even everything has come out because it's so suppressed, but everybody knows about this, and it keeps going, and yet the media basically was silent, and there was no investigation. And months later, it's basically gone away. How often do you hear it now? Maybe occasionally you see a trickle, and Epstein didn't kill himself, but it's kind of faded off a bit.
Sure.
And nothing's come of it.
Because you needed that to be the catalyst for a true investigation, for true answers.
Yep.
And it did work to put his name out there. Because let's face it, there's a whole bunch of people in the United States and the world that wouldn't even know the name Jeffrey Epstein.
Correct.
They would not know that name.
Yep.
Now we at least know the name.
That's another thing. He was arrested 10 years ago and spent time in jail for basically, he's been doing this for a very long time, and most people didn't know about it back then, which then further highlights just how little media coverage purposely has been given to this. Mm-hmm. And the extent of just how many people are involved in this. I think it really just shows, really, can you trust anything on mainstream media, or pretty much most media sources, who are blatantly just ignoring this?
No, you're right. You're right. And we're, and that's where we got to try to bring this to light one way or another. And I don't know if it can be done, really. You know, I mean, except for, and you're right, this is, I feel like this in some ways is akin to the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
Where it has opened people's eyes to the idea that those crazy conspiracy theorists, they're right on this one. Like, this one they're right on. Even if they're wrong on the other stuff, they're right on this one. And I think it's opened a lot of eyes. And hey, like I said, you know, and to you meme lords out there, pat yourself on the back. You deserve it. You know, that you did this. The media didn't do this. We never would have, I mean, it was pretty lame, but we never would have got that 60 Minutes special if it weren't for this. You know, they never would have covered it to that extent, ever.
No, although I think that was also hey, we got to sweep this under the rug somehow. Let's find a fall guy. Let's pin it on him.
Did you guys watch the 60 Minutes special?
The whole thing.
Did you catch that, Adam, or no? No. It was stupid. I mean, it was I was informed, but you know, I watched the whole thing. I liked it. I guess I was glad that they were doing it, but it was dumb. I did feel like it was them sweeping it under the rug, and what I felt like they were doing was they were unequivocally saying that Jeffrey Epstein absolutely positively was a monster. They were throwing him under the bus completely and saying, yes, he was a monster, he was a terrible person, let's all be glad he's dead. You know, this happened. They didn't talk about him committing suicide or not committing suicide. That didn't come up at all. They had a victim on there, you know, a couple victims. One seemed to be like the really highlighted one, a woman that lives in Australia now. You know, they highlighted that a lot, but the whole time I'm thinking they keep talking about these other elites that he was shipping them to. Who are these other people? That's what I want to know.
No investigation.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like they're, you know, and yes, I'm using that term they and their a lot. You know, I'm using the proverbial they to describe the they who we don't know, the elites, whoever's pushing the narrative, whoever is doing this. But yeah, I'm going to continue doing that. It is the they, the elites, the people out there who are saying, yeah, oh yeah, he sucked. Yeah, for sure. Epstein. Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, he's glad he's gone. What a terrible, terrible man. And I feel like with Prince Andrew, that was the guy that they decided to throw under the bus with him. You know, they decided to say, oh geez, I don't know if we can save Prince Andrew from this. So instead, let's just nail him. Let's let him go down. I don't know. Did Epstein or Andrew or both, did they do something to piss off the elites? That they decided that, okay, these guys are gonna be the fall guy. Too many questions. Every once in a while, you got to throw somebody under the bus.
You know, it would almost seem like that. Like, was there some power struggle behind the scenes? Because you know that Epstein's not the peak of the pyramid. That's right. You know, that's why it's easy for the media. Everybody knows he was a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. You know, just throw him under the bus as much as possible, and you know, then the media sounds like, oh yeah, we're giving you dirt on this really horrible, horrific guy, but not really, sort of thing. But he was just the facilitator, and there's probably most certainly other Epsteins out there that do the exact same thing. And I don't know, maybe he made a power play and it went wrong, and this is what.
Or somebody else wanted to take over the ring.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and they, you know, you can't. You can't take out. You can't take over the ring without taking out the boss, without taking out the ringleader, or they just thought, police got a little too close to Jeffrey. So, I mean, keep in mind he's the guy that has the dirt on everybody.
You know who's still alive too? Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah. No,
she's still out there. No. And you don't hear about her at all. She's completely buried in the news.
One thing I will say, they did talk about her a lot on the 60 Minutes. Thing. I will say that, but no, Ghislaine Maxwell, or what I've heard her name pronounced a million ways.
Did they make the connection that her father was a Mossad agent?
They didn't in that. They did not. But, Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman who has come out and said publicly that her and Jeffrey have videos of all of it. They have videos of all of it. They have all of this stuff on video that all of these guys did. Yeah, I mean, and she has links to royal. She's a royal.
Do people,
you know, I mean, a very minor one, but it's...
Do people understand that, like, there's a honeypot, what a honeypot is? Like, I know that the general perception is that Epstein did these horrible, and all these people did these horrible things to these underage, basically, you know, sex acts, eating, whatever. They did these horrible things, but that it's a honeypot, basically they purposely did that. Either they drew these people in or essentially forced them to do it in order to gain their popularity and fame, in order to essentially control them. That's essentially what it is.
So they'd have some sort of blackmail over them in the future.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
so
you're
they could
talking
control them.
very prominent figures. I mean, obviously we know about the Clinton's the one that comes up, and you know, maybe Clinton had him killed, which is just, I think, another red herring. Like, it's not actually.
No, the what I like to refer to is kind of like the Hillary Clinton farce in this whole thing. And God knows I am no Hillary Clinton fan, and I know that she did have links to Jeffrey Epstein for sure.
Yep.
You know, they absolutely positively had links to one another, and I'm sure he probably did have dirt on Hillary Clinton to some degree, and I'm sure she had dirt on him as well. But the thing with Hillary Clinton, I shared thousands and thousands of memes about Jeffrey Epstein to try to push this narrative, you know, push the, keep it talked about, keep it in the news, keep it on people's minds. But I refused to, and this was a lot of them to skip over, I refused to share any of the memes or statements about Hillary Clinton killing him. Because there is zero proof of that. You know, I mean, most of the people that he was bringing in were men, of course, you know, to get, and this is the stuff we know about. You know, the narrative behind him is that, you know, he would bring these young girls in to give massages. He'd hire them as masseuses, but then they wouldn't massage. You know, it was much, much, much more than that. And they talked about him doing this 2-3 times a day. Some of the victims said that he would have, you know, young girls, you know, young women doing this to him 2-3 times a day. But one thing I noticed with the 60 Minutes thing is, yeah, they have like half a dozen, not even half a dozen of his victims on there, and they're all talking about how they would be used to recruit. And the one girl who I did believe, you know, she's a woman now, but, you know, she said, that's the thing that haunts me the most, is that I brought other young girls into this. You know, I knew what he was doing, and he was paying me, and I brought in even more girls, and I feel terrible for what I did to them. But the question I kept asking to myself as I'm watching is, where are they? Where are all the other victims? We know like a dozen of them. That's it. And all records, even the low estimates, say we're looking at kids and women mostly, in the thousands to tens of thousands at least that are involved in this. Where the hell are they all? You know,
are you assuming they're alive?
No, I'm not.
But are you saying where's the body?
Right. I'm saying, were they all murdered, or are they still sex slaves somewhere? That's kind of what I tend to think, is that they're
possibly.
And in the 60 Minutes, they kind of had this like narrative in the back of it, and some other things I've seen that, like, yeah, these are all such troubled girls. They, you know, he'd recruit from, you know, trailer parks and you know, low income areas and get them. Yeah, I believe that. I'm certain of that happened.
Oh, and not even just with them. That happens with trafficking in general.
Right, of course. Yeah, that's going to be the easiest to do for sure.
Yeah.
But they kind of had this like back narrative, like, you know, and so many of them, you know, were consumed with, you know, they couldn't handle this and were consumed with drugs and alcohol and, you know, died. It's like, so they're all dead. They just all died of drug overdoses. All of them died of drug overdoses or drank themselves to death or committed suicide with no bodies to be. All of them, 10,000 of them. They're all gone. They all died of drug overdoses. Like, no, I don't buy it. Where are they? You know, were they murdered? Are they still sex slaves? You know, that's the most important part. You know, I mean, we know that he has thousands and thousands of victims. Are we searching for them? I mean, if we're okay, fine. I guess, you know, that's just the way the world works. The media doesn't care. We don't care what the elites are doing. We'd rather not know what the elites are doing, all the gross, nasty, horrible things they do. We don't want to know about that. But okay, so we're not even going to look for the victims though either. All right. No. I mean, at this point, Epstein's dead, right? They could come forward. Could they not? I mean, what on earth is stopping them? And even these women who were the victims of his, who I almost feel like they were possibly handpicked to be the face of this thing. I hate to say that because if these people if these women were victims, my heart absolutely goes out to them. I can't imagine how horrific that would be. But some of them were like the kind of, the top end ones that maybe he was treating a little bit better, is that he's talking to. They don't have any names of these other victims that they can give out. Even if they don't know for sure, they can't say Carol from so-and-so, I know I got, and they had to have at least known their first name. They knew something about them. They knew it was Carol from so-and-so trailer park. They knew it was Susie, who they went to high school with. How hard is it to track these things? This is the United States of America. It's actually pretty easy to track stuff like that. If you say, it was Susie that I went to high school with. Well, you know who she is. You can look in her yearbook. This is like basic detective work. Extremely basic, like 1970s detective work. You don't need fingerprints. You don't need databases. This is actually really easy to find. But where are they? Where are they? We've got his big black book published with hundreds of names, many of them household names.
And nothing's really come of that, has it?
No.
These people are just going on living their lives. Yeah. Some very prominent names there.
No, where's TMZ? Where are these groups chasing these guys down?
And these people have all been in interviews since then. Where's the, hey, what were you doing? And I'm sure there's some of them have had that. Oh, it was nothing. I didn't actually make the trip, or we just hung out for the weekend or whatever.
You know what it probably is. It's probably legal recourse. Because there's no. As far as these names in these books, these are some powerful people in there who have a lot of money and a lot of access to lawyers. So you have TMZ or anybody sitting there hunting them down, making these accusations. Then I'm sure they're potentially opening themselves up to legal recourse if they sit there and try to make any, any assumptions or
you're right. They're very protected. They're very protected. So, they have money.
And it's true. Every single person in this book, just because they're in the book, doesn't mean that they were partaking in what Jeffrey Epstein was ultimately guilty for. But again, the speculation is still going to loom. Why were they in there to begin with?
See, here's the thing, though. Everybody knew what that island was. So first off, anybody who's flown there is pretty much guilty.
Well, sure, there's the island, but then there's just being in his black book. Again, being in the black book doesn't demonize you and make you guilty by association. I think that's unfair. But
I don't like the guilty by association either. But in this case, I think it's pretty damning for a few reasons. But one of them is, everybody knew what he was doing. So if you're friends with Jeffrey Epstein and you're not speaking up, because even if you're not participating at his apartment or at this island, somehow he's flying you out there and you're just having a couple beers and you're not saying anything about these horrible things.
I understand that, but if he is as powerful and in with powerful people as we suspect,
they're being controlled.
As if we suspect he is, then they could speak up and nothing. Who knows? Maybe they have been speaking up. Everybody knew this, so what else is there to say? I'm just saying that they're not going to be able to control who and what number Jeffrey Epstein writes down in this book.
Okay,
everybody knew this. Yes, you're right. Josh knew this. Ed, you knew this. I knew this. Everybody knew this, yet he kept on getting off every single time. If it wasn't one thing, it was, what's his face? Alex Acosta, the former, I forgot what he was in the Trump administration, and he was something else too. But it was guys like him, giving them these sweetheart deals where they would only spend time in jail at night when they had to go to bed.
Oh, it's pathetic.
I mean, everybody knew what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. It doesn't seem like it didn't matter what somebody said after the fact, because whatever anybody would say, people would be like, yeah, we know that. Of course he's a pedophile, but he's always one step ahead of, law enforcement that tries to, bring him down, or maybe the law enforcement that doesn't want to bring him down.
Listen, here's my thing. Okay, I'm just gonna grab a random one. I'm gonna pick one of the names that pops up a lot. Okay, so I'm Chris Tucker, a guy who is famous for movies, was huge for a minute, back in the 90s, hasn't been doing a lot lately, but big name, people know his name. I'm Chris Tucker, and I hung out with Epstein dozens of times, which we know he has. And he truly didn't know. Then I am going to want to be the first guy. I'm going to want to give an interview. I'm going to be calling the press. I'm going to be saying, listen, guys, here's the deal. Yeah, Epstein was a big, rich dude. He threw some hellacious parties. I went. I threw back a couple of beers with him on his yacht. Did a couple lines of coke. I didn't know, guys. If this dude was a pedophile, if he was doing this, I swear I didn't know. I'd be lining up like, get out the polygraph. Let's do a lie detector. That's me. And I'm gonna give a really small example of myself back in the day. And this is nothing compared to that. When I was hosting the Twin Galaxies show, there was a guy who was a known pedophile in the gaming world.
Subculture.
In the gaming subculture, yes. And he friended me on Facebook. I didn't know. I got 5,000 Facebook friends. I didn't know who he was. And I'm going to take it further and put some blame on myself here. I actually should have known. I knew enough. I was woke enough in the scene to know that it was. But I admit, I was probably getting a couple dozen Facebook requests a week. And I accepted it. I didn't even know I was Facebook
Josh
friends
is
with the
so
guy.
popular getting a couple dozen Facebook.
Hey, listen, again, nothing compared to a guy like Chris Tucker. But
that's a weak association.
People jumped all over me. People jumped all over for me for being associated with this guy.
Get a Facebook request
here,
kind of
like being on somebody's black book. So I'm trying to make the correlation here. They did. I came clean. I said, listen, guys, I didn't know. Okay. I didn't know. I contacted the people who were criticizing me, and I said, listen, guys, I didn't know, all right? I didn't know that this guy wasn't supposed to be on Facebook. I didn't know that he wasn't supposed to be doing this. I didn't know that he just got out of prison. I didn't know. I didn't know. And I apologized, and I unfriended him. And that was it. Like, that was it. That was a mistake that I didn't even hang out with the guy. Chris Tucker hung out with the guy,
You're talking about something that's completely electronic, and, in your case, like, you don't actually know 5,000 people in real life. Or maybe you do, but you don't know all 5,000 of these people. But,
of course.
But like you said, nobody's saying anything about it, when it just shows that the reason nobody's doing this is because pretty much every person who's associated with them is very likely guilty, and they're under control.
Has something to
lose. I don't think everybody's that's associated with him is guilty of being a pedophile.
I'll agree with that.
What I think some of these individuals, maybe all of them,
everybody in the black book is.
Well, you think guilty of being a pedophile?
Oh well.
I think if
anybody who's been
to
to the island probably has.
Well, I don't even think everybody everybody in his black book is guilty of being a pedophile. The thing is here, though, is that, like we said before, everybody knew who Jeffrey Epstein was. Everybody knew what he was all about. This is where you don't get off the hook. Why are you associating with this guy to begin with? Why? I mean, you know who he is. Why do you keep associating with him?
Isn't that guilt, though? Like, you uncover what could potentially be the biggest news story of all time, and you just keep your mouth shut.
Well, like I said, though, I think some lead it on to be, I mean, who's in whose pocket here, and what is if you peel back the onion even more, what is it to reveal? I think that the only thing that some of these people are guilty of is continuing to associate themselves with Jeffrey Epstein, knowing what kind of guy he is and what he's all about.
I agree.
I think, and without having to be a pedophile, like George Stephanopoulos, he's in the Black Book. Do I think George Stephanopoulos is a pedophile?
Probably.
Maybe.
I mean, I don't think he is. He seems just like a
Should we define pedophile here? I actually think we should. Like what a pedophile is, because someone who a grown man, say 30 years old, 40 years old, who has sex or who is attracted to a post-pubescent girl under the age of 18 isn't a pedophile. They've done something very wrong if they act on that. But we all know some 16-year-olds look like they're 25. So you are not.
Well,
not a
we
pedophile.
know that a lot of these girls were younger than 16.
But what we do know, and this is from 60 Minutes, this is from, I got to tell you, if I'm somebody, even if I'm me, but definitely if I'm somebody with decent means who is, isn't struggling to pay the electric bill. It's not like a guy. I don't want to use Chris Tucker again. Throw me another one.
George Stephanopoulos.
George Stephanopoulos
It's part of the media.
is nowhere near Jeffrey Epstein rich or Mike Bloomberg rich. He's nowhere near that, but he's not struggling to pay his electric bill.
No.
He's doing just fine. So I'm somebody with means, and I get invited to, hey, we're going on this private jet to Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico or something. It's going to be awesome. We're just going to hang out for the weekend. I'm like, yeah, who's going to say no to that? But I get on this private jet, and the private jet is brimming with girls between the age of 12 and 19 serving drinks to people, walking around in skimpy outfits serving drinks. You got to say something. I'm sorry, you got to say something.
I don't even think it's that. I mean, I don't think that...
More than 60 Minutes it was.
Well, I don't even think everybody in the Black Book or everybody who associated themselves with Jeffrey Epstein even partook in something like that. What I'm saying is bad enough is going to a party that Jeffrey Epstein is throwing.
What?
Even if it's just a regular party at his house that it's just going to be a get together with 50 people, adults, no prepubescent girls, no nothing like that. You going to that party, knowing who Jeffrey Epstein is, knowing what's in the media, that's pretty bad on its own.
Why would you willingly hang out with somebody who blackmails people for a living? Like you know that's what he does. You know it's a honeypot. You know that he basically has dirt on all of these people. If you're one of these people who's in his black book or he's associated with who's not guilty, why are you making that association? Like if you're not guilty, you don't want that association.
No, I agree with you, Ed. I agree with you. I'm just saying I don't agree with the assumption that everybody who associated themselves with Jeffrey Epstein is a sexual predator. That's all I'm saying.
Adam, I think for clarity and for the show's sake, I think we definitely need to actually concede your point. I think, just for the course, I think we need to concede your point.
You can't know exactly who was guilty of what, just right. That probably most of them were.
But I will say this, because I agree with you, Adam. I think you are right. I think you're making a valid point here, a very valid point about the Black Book. But if you flew in his jet, I think
if you're on the flight log,
I think you're right there. And
I think the flying on his jet, the Lolita Express, I think that's what it's called.
Yes,
yeah.
I think that takes it up to a different tier in all of this, because again, people knew what that jet was all about. And again, if you are putting yourselves in that position, then you are certainly opening yourselves up to that speculation that you were partaking in some of that more nefarious Jeffrey Epstein, activity.
Remember, it's not just pedophilia that happened, but there's possibly some sacrifices and human cannibalism.
I'm not going to get into that. I don't.
I mean, there's evidence of it, and
that's one of the things that's a shame is that obviously there's evidence on all of these people, and it might be obvious. Oh, hey, there's hundreds of people who are, and these people are all guilty, but also hundreds more. But it's being buried.
I certainly get the impression that there were worse things going on than, and this is bad, but there was definitely worse things going on than 15-year-olds giving massages to men and then having sex with them afterwards.
Being eaten after they...
I think that there is a lot of this going on, and many of the people who seem to be talked about when you're talking about these rings, they're not always teenage girls or young women. They're babies a lot. And this woman, the woman on 60 Minutes, the one who's living in Australia now, said that the reason she finally left was because Epstein wanted her to have a baby, and that she was then going to have to sign over the rights to that baby. I mean, this is, so this is coming from a guy who, I think the 60 Minutes thing was a cover game. I think it was mostly BS. I think it was an act to hide a lot of things, but that's straight from the 60 Minutes thing. So I mean, Adam, would you concede that you're in the maybe, I think it's more than this, but, and yes, this is not innocent till proven guilty. That I'm not acting on this, but would you concede that probably 10% of that black book?
I'm not gonna.
That's fine.
Not gonna throw out.
I mean, is that an insane thing to say that 10%?
Look, do I think that there was a handful of people in that black book at least that partook in that, in pedophilia and that? Yes, I do. Who those people are, who knows? I think it's. It's unfair in some sense to sit here and throw out accusations based on that. But like I said, though, continuing to associate with this guy, knowing what he's about and what he's done, that is. I don't want to say that's bad enough, but that makes you certainly guilty of something.
I mean, are we out of line to be saying that there could be a murder aspect that goes along with this, sex ring? I mean, you're running a sex ring of 10,000 plus people.
Murder, to keep people quiet. No, I don't think you're out of line for that. I mean, when you get into the cannibalistic and sacrifice, I think that's when it gets a little crazy.
Perhaps I kind of go back to
why is that crazy? I'm curious. Like, is it just because it's hard to believe?
It just seems like it just seems like it's continuing to add a different type of interest or something to this. It seems too out there.
Perhaps it does, but this is something I like to refer to as the old conspiracy theory, and this is the idea that people have been saying this stuff for 40 years, maybe more. Probably more like 50. People have been saying this stuff for 50 years, that this stuff goes on. And as we one by one find out that not all, but we find out that many of these quote-unquote conspiracy theories were very much true, it gets a whole lot easier for me to believe that the other stuff goes on. I mean, I don't know if they're drinking baby blood every single day or every single night. I'm not necessarily claiming that, like some people do. But do I think that crazy things like that have happened? Yeah, I do. Okay, Ultra conspiracy came out. You were a loon if you believe that. You were an absolute loon. How could you... What? You believe in that? But as it comes to believe, it was true. It was true. When the Area 51 conspiracy came out, that there was this place called Area 51, where they're making all these crazy aircrafts and flying stuff around, you were a nut. You were a nut if you believed that. But as it turns out, it was true. And when they said that Hollywood and the elites were running enormous pedophile rings, you were crazy. You were crazy if you believed that. But as it turns out, that was true too. That was true too.
Doesn't the way that the media handled this 10 years ago and last year, doesn't that kind of lead you to wonder or believe there's probably a hell of a lot more than they're letting on here? I mean, you can't trust them. You know they're basically doing everything they can to sweep this under the rug. That much is obvious. Like
I said before, you are dealing with very, very powerful people here who have a lot of money, who have a lot of access to legal representation. Yeah. You sit here and you start throwing around accusations that you can't prove, then you are opening yourself.
Not only that, but a lot of these people are in the press. So you've got people who are associating with him who report the news.
Again, like I said, just because, Katie Couric is in the Black Book, I don't think that necessarily means that Katie Couric is partaking in this sort of thing.
But I guarantee you she's not going to report on it.
Maybe not. But maybe she's also one of these people too that is, what more can be said about this?
The thing is with somebody like Katie Couric, do I think that Katie Couric was a pedophile or was having sex with little kids or raping little kids? Because that's really what you should say. We should say raping. You don't actually.
Yeah, there's no consent.
You don't have sex with a child. You rape a child. Do I think that Katie Couric was raping children or eating babies? No, not making that claim. Not making that claim. Do I think that she knows a hell of a lot more about this than she is that she is admitting to? Yes, I do. I absolutely positively do. And I think a lot of other people know about this. And Adam, you're right. They're protected. They're lawyered up. They got money. They've signed NDA after NDA. They've made commitments to not say anything. But do I think it's because people are scared to ask them about this because they're afraid of legal recourse? Yes, to some degree. More so, I think these people are scared to come forward.
Oh, sure. I mean, that could definitely be a thing too.
Because they don't want the next thing to be hashtag Chris Tucker didn't kill himself.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that could be something too.
I think these people who aren't saying anything, they either have something to hide because they know they've done things. They know that,
Well, yeah, I mean, anybody denying something like that, I think, would be kidding themselves, considering what type of people are involved here.
Well, and a lot of it could simply be this. Could be something like this. You're at a party. You're at a big, fancy party, and there's hot girls everywhere. And one of them, you say, hey, take so-and-so. That one wants to take you in that back room over there. You do it. And then Ghislaine Maxwell comes up to you and says, hey, that 19-year-old you just hooked up with, she was hot, huh? You say, yeah, ooh, that was fun, that was cool. You say, yeah, there's a camera in that room, and actually she's 15. And then you say, oh, shit, I didn't know that. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you knew that or not. We got it on videotape. And we own you now, okay? So, we're cool, right? What do you say?
There's nothing.
And then at the next party, you openly see pedophilia. You openly hear these elites talking about, yeah, we're gonna have to kill so and so. We're gonna have to off so and so. And you can't say shit because they got you. They got you forever now. And I think that's what goes down at a lot of these things. It's blackmail. I mean, you have Ghislaine Maxwell saying on camera, yeah, we got it all on videotape, me and Jeffrey. All this stuff on videotape.
And you're going to tell me they can't find her right now? Because she's could be the key to revealing everything.
Right.
I mean,
I thought she was in Israel. Is that
she is because
she is in Israel?
So what most people think, yeah.
Yeah, the speculation is because of the right of return laws that basically pedophiles are protected because she has the right to go back there, and they can't force her to basically get deported to come on trial here.
Even Prince Andrew, who, and I don't know if I believe this or not, but there's a lot of people who claim that if Prince Andrew comes to the United States, they're arresting him. Or they're bringing him in for questioning. So which is why he's not going to the United States. You know, I mean, he's not.
But isn't there already an extradition agreement between the United States and Great Britain, though?
Well, not for the prince.
If the FBI...
The British police, and, you know, their version of the, you know, their alphabet boys, if you will, their versions of that, have made it... Without completely saying it, they've made it very clear that they are not doing anything.
Let's also not gloss over the fact, because I know everybody likes to take their shots at the Clintons in this sense,
right?
But let's not gloss over
Bush, Obama.
Who's in charge of the United States government right now?
I got it on the list,
and that's Donald Trump, who's been associated with Jeffrey Epstein on many occasions here. Yep. And not to mention Bill Barr has had his associations
Absolutely.
too. So
that's a good segue into, well, why isn't Bill Barr or the FBI, why aren't there a slew of arrests when they have this evidence? Why aren't we seeing just the biggest arrest in history?
And we're going to get into it later, but I'd already dropped this name once. Who is Donald Trump's attorney that he used during the impeachment? Alan Dershowitz.
Yep.
Also Jeffrey Epstein's attorney, and not just his attorney, his buddy. So his absolute buddy. Now
not at first. He was connected with the Clintons, but now that, you know, he's defended Donald Trump on the media and you know, everywhere else, then now they're friends.
Just as a counterpoint, just playing devil's advocate, there was that story that came out about how Trump 10 years ago was actually willing to testify against him. So, you know, I could throw it out there that even if Trump isn't guilty, it could be also that he's surrounded by basically everybody who is. So even as the president, if he said, let's arrest every single last one of them, he's probably being controlled too, even if they don't have dirt on him for that.
This is not me defending either one of them, but one thing I can't stand about the Epstein thing, and even people who are, you know, supposedly who are on my side on this Epstein outing him, is the Trump versus Clinton facade. You know,
it's bigger than either of them.
Yeah, the idea that every Republican wants to talk about how Clinton has ties to Epstein, and every Democrat wants to talk about how Trump has ties to Epstein.
It's the same group.
They both do.
It's the same
group. They both do.
They're part of the same group.
The one thing I will say, because I said something to defend Hillary Clinton earlier that makes my stomach turn to do. The one thing I found about the Trump thing that made me think maybe he wasn't as connected as some is that Epstein was actually barred from Trump Tower.
Yeah.
And he actually was barred from there, and they have it on record. And this is from years ago, where Trump actually did say, I don't want that guy in Trump Tower, he's a creep. But then there's also the video of Trump and Epstein hanging out together, and Trump's cracking jokes, and Epstein's just yucking it up with him.
And who knows what he's really truly barred for? I mean, Trump's a businessman. You know, could there have been a business falling out between the two?
Yeah, I mean, his quote was, "He's a creep."
You don't know. I mean, we don't know. But
yeah, again, Clinton and Trump absolutely. Not only do they have ties to Epstein, they have ties to each other.
But again, though, this goes beyond Trump. This goes to
far beyond. It's bigger than any single person.
This goes to William Barr. This goes to Alan Dershowitz. This goes,
the entire government. Like, why is the FBI not doing anything? Why are people in Congress not? They could launch an investigation. There's enough people that they know.
Absolutely.
Nobody is doing anything about this because they're all fucking in on it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with that point. The idea is, if there's 40 people in Congress, say, who have zero ties to Jeffrey Epstein, and we know that there's at least 40 that do, just for political purposes, aren't you trying to go nuts outing these people?
Yeah.
Even if they're your own party, just make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, do it for the wrong reasons. Really. I don't care about your motives. I don't give a shit about your motives at all. Do it for the wrong reasons. But nobody does. Because, well, they either know that they're all in on it, or they know that this is untouchable. That you don't get to do this.
I would say, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if there were a handful of people maybe who weren't in on it. Maybe that's even doubtful. But they would realize they see the machine and how controlled it is and how they're going to get nowhere fast. Like, they're going to speak out, they're going to be killed, or they're going to be basically just not given any airtime. They're not going to make it anywhere.
I am comfortable making the statement that if you are in the Senate, I was gonna say in Congress, but I realize there are some people in the House who do bounce in and out. But if you've been in the House for 10 plus years, or you've been in the Senate at all, I promise you've got secrets about this stuff. I promise you know horrific things that you're not saying. And that's because they got you. These people, they have you. They have dirt on you one way or another.
Do you know who's on the list? I'm sorry, I'm just reading through the names again. Courtney Love. She must have heard that they kill people there.
Oh, dude. No, dude. Oh, jeez. No, have you seen the thing from years ago with Courtney Love? No. This is a different one. But this is from the 90s. Courtney Love is on stage. She's at an award show. Not on stage. She's at an award show on the red carpet. Mm. And they ask her, years ago, she's young. She's, you know, I mean, this is like when she was big. I'm not sure. It might be when Kurt might still be alive. I don't know. It might be when Cobain is still alive. I have no idea exactly when it's from. But that era, you know, they ask her then. They say, hey, you know, you can tell she's like probably maybe had a few drinks or maybe smoked a little something, or, you know, she looks a little messed up like Courtney Love tends to. And they say to her, hey, Courtney, any, like, the basic, like, most, like, boring question they get asked, any advice for young people coming up in this business, especially young women, since, you know, young rockers out there or something? She's like, yeah, don't go to Harvey Weinstein's apartment. And she's like, oh, oops, oh, sorry, oh, yeah, that's right, we're not allowed to talk about that. It was decades ago. And I know this isn't the Harvey Weinstein topic, but I feel that they are somewhat linked, because I feel like Harvey Weinstein's the same thing. He's not the only one who was doing that.
He's the fall guy for that.
Yeah, he's the fall guy for he's the fall guy for Hollywood. Jeffrey Epstein was the fall guy for the elites. They were doing the same thing. They were the same person.
So that's the thing, is that, you know, maybe not every member of Congress, not every person in Hollywood was associated with Epstein, but there are other Epsteins out there that they are associated with in some way or another.
Yeah. Yes. This is what I'm saying. Absolutely. We've mentioned him twice in passing, and I would like to take a couple minutes and talk about Alan Dershowitz with this. Alan Dershowitz, I actually was a big fan of this guy for a long time. And this is back when I was less fringe, and when I was actually could maybe be considered like a legit Republican. And he was a liberal, you know, and he was actually one of the guys I always thought was like one of my favorite liberals. I actually just really respected him and thought, like, this is a guy that makes sense. I don't agree with his viewpoints, but he's a guy that articulates the message well, and he's sane. Like, he's a guy that makes sense. I like him. I liked his writings. I liked his stuff. And with this connection he has to him, have you guys seen the interview that Dershowitz gave when they asked him about this? I'm not trying to overreact to it, but it was chilling. It was absolutely chilling, the interview he gave, where they're asking, well, yeah, but I mean, and then after you defended him, yeah, and you went to his house, and you know, what he said, oh yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I got a massage. But I'm not really into that. I'm not really a big massage fan. But yeah, I went there, a couple times, and got a massage. Like, don't know. Were there other young women walking around in this place? Maybe. I don't know. I didn't see him. And then he basically goes on to slut shame all of them and talk about how, well, I mean, regardless of their age, they're prostitutes. So, who cares? Is basically the interview. And of course I'm not quoting here, I'm paraphrasing. I don't have this in front of me. It's been some months since I've seen it, but that is something that, after you listen to this show, check out Dershowitz's interview, because again, maybe it's just because I have 2 daughters myself, maybe, but I found it chilling. I really did. I found it absolutely disgusting. And I feel weird even bringing up this as a conspiracy theory, because this is a conspiracy theory. I will say that this thing I'm about to say is absolutely a conspiracy theory. I listen to one of the shows a lot, radio show. I listen to Dennis Prager a lot. I really like his show a lot. Big fan of his. I think he's a great man. He does a lot of good things for humanity. But I know him and Dershowitz are buddies. Alan Dershowitz has been on his show dozens and dozens of times over the last decade. I've heard him on there. He's actually where I was introduced to him for the most part, was through that show. And I thought, oh, this Dershowitz guy, he's a brilliant man. Just an absolutely brilliant man. And I listened to, and maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe I'm wrong, because I haven't listened to every second of his show. I work for a living during the day, and he's on noon to 3 at our station. I just find it weird that although Dennis Prager never talks about, he doesn't just talk about politics. He talks about everything. I've never heard him mention the Epstein thing. Not once. Not one time ever. And I know he's buddies with Dershowitz. And it makes me wonder, through the heart of it. I never heard him even mention it as a meme on the show, to just say, hey, that's stupid, or people are still on that, and I just wonder if his buddy Alan Dershowitz said, hey, don't talk about that Epstein thing on your show, right? Because, I just wonder that. And I feel terrible, because I'm a big fan of his, and I feel like I'm taking a guy who I love his philosophy type shows. I don't always agree with him on politics. He's a, kind of a big Trump slappy at this point, and I'm not really big on that. But I love his, he has a, when he talks about philosophy and religion and things like that, or his show can be really fascinating sometimes. Great speaker, great guy, from everything I've ever seen. But I find that weird. I find it weird that I never once heard it, and I know him and Dershowitz are buddies. And the Dershowitz thing, again, is there such thing as guilty by association? Not guilty of a crime, necessarily. Kind of like what Adam was saying. I'm not here trying to convict, be judge, jury, and executioner for every person in Epstein's Black Book. Or necessarily for every person that's even on his flight log. Even though we know what happened on his flight. And, like you guys said, it was called the Lolita Express. You guys know where that name comes from? Lolita is a character, a young girl who the soldier falls in love with in an old movie. This is a reference to banging teenage girls. Yeah. That's what Lolita means. So, especially, and honestly, like if you're a boomer, you kind of should get that reference. If you're Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, the guys that age, and you're boarding the Lolita Express, and the first thing you see is girl who doesn't look of age handing you a gin and tonic. And then you say nothing about it. Nothing about it at all. I got a lot of problems with this. Back to our point. Do you had something to add?
No, it was something else. But
no, it is back to our point with the everyone in Washington knows. Did you guys see Cindy McCain's comments about this? Cindy McCain basically came out and said they asked her about the Epstein thing, and she was, I guess, in her own way, trying to come clean and be anti-Epstein. But she said, yeah, we all knew. That's her quote, is, we all knew. We all knew about Epstein doing this. You all knew?
This isn't something you keep secret.
Your husband ran for president. Your husband was the top dude in the Republican Party. Your husband was, at one point, one of the most powerful men on planet Earth, about to be potentially handful of electoral votes away from being the most powerful man on planet Earth. When you have that power, you can call a press conference and have the entire press corps in your living room if you want. And if you are running for president and you make a phone call at 1:30 a.m. and say, hey, I want to have a press conference, by 2, there will be people at your door ready to ask you questions, and it never occurred to him or his wife or his people that they should say, hey, there's this dude named Jeffrey Epstein. Have you heard of him? No? Okay. He's out there, and he is running a child sex trafficking ring. Go arrest him, please.
Again, maybe it was beyond their...
Exactly.
It was beyond them.
Exactly. Either
it was beyond them, or they are
Probably part of it.
fucking assholes for not,
Adam, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Not using the fullest extent of their power to, get this guy, bring him into custody, and then making sure he never was able to do it again.
No, I was going to say it's a lot that it's both. Jump in, Adam. Sorry.
Let's say, can you at least? I know we can't say that people who are associated with him are necessarily guilty of anything, but pretty much anybody who associated with him is probably just a massive piece of shit if somehow they are not guilty. Like, if you have some evidence, even if it means your own death, but you have the chance of basically getting this out to the world, don't you have to try?
Yeah.
Like,
what type of person? Again, everybody knew. Senator McCain said we all knew about it. I mean, what kind of person goes and associates themselves with this type of person?
Well, and the thing is,
of course you're going to be, on some level, a piece of shit if you're going to associate yourself with this guy, knowing what he does.
Well, and what's so strange about it is that, John McCain was running the first time he ran, 2000. John McCain was running for president while Bill Clinton was the sitting president. That's a great way to get votes. By exposing that. Mm-hmm. By exposing that we all know that there's this guy named Jeffrey Epstein who's doing these terrible things. Oh, and by the way, Bill Clinton's flown on his plane. You get votes by saying that. By the way, I know I'm not the front runner here. George W. Bush is. But the Bush family's got ties to Mr. Epstein. Who wouldn't say that? Again, do it for the wrong reasons. Do it to get attention. Do it to get votes. But by all means, do it.
You know what? They may have made that calculation, and who knows? Maybe they figured that it wasn't maybe it wasn't best for them to.
Yeah, I guess, but
to say something.
If you're really what you claim you are, then it doesn't matter, right? You wanna...
No, you're right, but again,
let's face it, they're all part of the same machine. We know that. I mean, maybe you don't have exact evidence that she and that she's telling the truth there, and that maybe I guess whatever. Like that basically all these people he's associated with, and many more names who aren't associated with, they're all part of it. I mean, it's not even just Congress or Hollywood. There's science involved too. I mean, Lawrence Krauss, what's his name? Wheelchair guy. Stephen Hawking.
Oh, big time.
He's photographed. Like, that came out years ago before he died, that he was photographed on his island. And it's like, and the fact that when that came out, it wasn't like a big news story. It's like yet another, like, wait a minute. Yeah. Why is no one talking about it? I mean, it makes you wonder, because, he was a huge donator to Harvard. Like, just how much control did he have over just popular science?
Right. No, it's because that's what Epstein fancied himself, right? Mm-hmm. He was like He was like a crappy scientist.
Yeah.
He was like thought of himself as like a science guy.
Yeah, he started as like a math professor, but it's questionable that he even ever had a degree. He basically was just planted there.
Yeah, but that's like he was always trying to like do like experiments with Hawking, which he's anywhere near that intellect, but it was like, but when you're that guy, you're rich and powerful, you get to be like, ooh, science is fun, so who can I do science with? Stephen Hawking, yeah, I'll go do science with Stephen Hawking right after I bang this 15-year-old. I mean, it's pathetic. No, but yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, Stephen Hawking has some very close ties with it.
But that makes you wonder too, though. Like, did Stephen Hawking get to where he was at because of this? Are some of the things that he said, were they swayed because they wanted him to say that?
Yeah.
I mean, I know a guy who's kind of big into science, and I brought that up to him, and it's kind of like a lot of people almost like they like somebody on that list, and it's almost like no, or it's like then they start to think like, well, maybe it wasn't that bad, and the point was brought up. Well, that doesn't take away from any of his accomplishments. It's like,
does it?
Actually,
though?
I think it puts them highly into question because of everything that's known. You have to you have that, especially with Hawking. He's got fucking photos on the island.
Right.
Like that's far beyond just being on the list or on the flight log. That's like you almost have the actual photos condemning him.
And like we were saying before, there's still something very monstrous about an individual who you go to the island, you go to his pedophile island, you go on the Lolita Express, and they say, "Hey, got any girl you want? What we got him as young as 11 here. What do you want?" And you say, "Oh, no, I don't do that. Give me a 20-year-old."
Yeah. You're a scientist who's proclaiming that you want to help humanity,
and then you say nothing about it. That you just we're offered this, we're I know Adam, you don't like to go this route. Hey, we're doing a human sacrifice later. Oh no, I'm just here for the blow and the 25-year-olds. Okay, come on. I'm just keep that to yourself. But of course your secret's safe with me, Jeff. Don't worry about that. Of course not. But that is true. Yeah, everyone sees somebody on the list that they like. Mm-hmm. I'm a big Aerosmith fan. Always one of my favorite bands growing up. Steven Tyler's got some links to him.
Oh, really?
Yep, and Steven Tyler's been there, and you wonder that. You say, like, oh, that doesn't mean their music it takes away. But does it, though? Because if you think about it...
Maybe that's why they have the music out there.
Right, and the same point you're making with Stephen Hawking, you know what? There was a lot of kick-ass bands in the 70s. Most of them we barely remember now.
Yeah.
Maybe T-Rex would be the band that's still cool, and their lead singer would be the host of New England's Got Talent or whatever the shit Steven Tyler was the host of. Maybe they would be the big ones if they made the right deal.
That's a thing. I mean, like the same thing with Weinstein and anybody else who's doing that same thing is that certain actresses have certain roles because of certain deeds that were performed and not other actresses. Like, it's not like every movie you see was like there's some objective casting director who is just like looking at all this talent and just optimizing for the actual best actors and actresses. There's a lot of politics and shenanigans behind the scenes.
No, there is, for sure. And it's scary stuff, guys. I mean, there's a lot of links to this stuff. All right, we brought up the Courtney Love thing. And then I know there's people saying, I don't know if I buy into this or not, but we know Prince Andrew was so deep into this. There's a ton of people out there saying, was this whole Harry and Meghan debacle, was that just orchestrated to keep the Prince Andrew thing out of the news? Was that just the royal family saying? You
mean their divorce from the royal family?
Right. I mean, was that just them saying like, listen, Harry, you gotta take one for the team here and make some waves because. The timing seems strange. I don't know that it was. I actually am more prone to think that they're throwing Prince Andrew under the bus because I tend to think he's not the only royal doing this kind of stuff.
Oh,
probably. I feel like it's like, listen, Andrew, sorry, We know you're never going to be king. Here's the deal. This is going to come down hard on us, and we can't have that. So, you know, if there's more pictures of you with Epstein than anybody else, you were his buddy, you're going to have to take this one. You know, you're going to have to take one for the team, and, you know, it's not a terrible life somewhere. And we're going to hardly hear from him. You know, he's going to live the rest of his life in a palace, being waited on hand and foot by servants, and that's it. He's not going to get to have the cool royal parties and everything else, but that's going to be his life.
Who was he married to?
He was married to Fergie.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, he was married to Fergie. They've been divorced. They got divorced before Chuck and Di, I believe.
Oh, the one who was in Black Eyed Peas, right?
Yeah, that one.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
You know what? This side note, I know, but I was so not into the music scene when that happened that I was actually at a party years ago and somebody was talking about Fergie, meaning that. And I felt like this was like they weren't doing the OK Boomer thing yet, but this could have been like an OK Boomer moment because it was like because I thought they were talking about the Princess of York. I mean, I thought they were, and I was just like, whoa, Fergie's got a record? Like, seriously? I was like, I didn't know that. Like, is it good? Like, and they're like, yeah, it's good. Like, you know, I was like, what? I hadn't heard her name in years. And then it it hit me like, they're talking about a different chick. But that's just a side note on how not woke I was about the music
That'd have been right up
scene.
there with the girl at Hungry Howie's.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That's an old story that I've told on the podcast many times about the girl at Hungry Howie's that I thought maybe was kind of flirting with me a little bit, and she was talking about how like, oh God, you're like all about this because I got got jalapenos on my pizza and I got the Cajun crust, and she's like, oh wow, oh God, you must really like spicy stuff. My dad loves spicy stuff. You remind me of him. I was just like, oh. Rejected.
Give me my pizza.
Yeah. All right. Here. Yeah. The pizza ready yet? Can I get a 20 ounce of shame with that while I'm walking out of here? Oh, God. That was rough. And I probably was like her dad's age. when I think back. Maybe. No, not quite. I was, but shit. I was 35. It might have been 40. Probably your dad. I might be your dad's age now. That was some years ago. But no, it's really had like one of his big fortresses, wasn't it? Was it that? And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I've been to the Virgin Islands. I've spent some time there. Amazing place, incredible place. And this is going to, I admit, I don't want to sound hypocritical here, because what I'm about to say could be construed to go very much against my very libertarian and small government views. And it doesn't change them. But having, spent some time in the Virgin Islands and done a little research and things like that about the Virgin Islands, looking into it and dreaming about retiring there somewhere or something like that, I know for certain that's the perfect place to set this up. It really is. That is the perfect place to set, a ring like this up, because there is no, you can do whatever the hell you want there. There is no presence like this. The people there, it's elite people who run the hotels, and it's people there drinking from sun up till sundown, and nobody cares. There are police there, but the police are there to break up bar fights. I mean, the police are locals who, quite frankly, when you live in a place like that, it's kind of tough. It's a lot like, it's like people that live in a lot of cool vacation places. People that are born and raised in Aruba or even Hawaii. Very much, one of the states. People who live there. It's hard to make a living there, mm-hmm. because it's tough. Things are really expensive, and you don't have a lot of money. So the cops there, I'm sure, are good people for the most part, but they're just people trying to make ends meet. you know, and their job is not, these are not, you know, highly trained, you know, law enforcement officers. These are guys there to break up bar fights. You know, these are guys there to find not the drunk people, because drunk people's normal there. They don't care. But this is to find the extremely drunk guy laying in the middle of the road, and you drag him to the sidewalk and say, bro, you think you can drive? You think you can get home or what? Like, where are you headed? You know, and then you make the decision, like, can we push this guy in his way, or does he need to sleep in the drunk tank tonight? You know, that's their job there. And I'm not downplaying their job. That's what they're there for. So the idea that the only thing in his way would be, you know, the St. Thomas or St. Croix or what's the other one? St. John police officers to stop him it's smart. It's a good place to set up a thing like this. You know, it really is. And there are reports of police officers from the Virgin Islands trying to come check up on Jeffrey Epstein because he is a registered pedophile. And they're supposed to do that. But there's nothing to that. They can't get through his fortress. They can't get through his massive estate. They walk up and he says, hey guys, how you doing? It's Jack, right? Okay, yeah, cool. Hey, yeah, I got all my paperwork in order. Oh, did I forget that? I'm sorry. Hey, man, can I get you a beer? Yeah, I mean, you know that's what it's like. You know? And if this cop won't do it, if this cop doesn't like you slipping him the $100 bills, he'll find a cop who will. You know, he will. Again, and that's not even a criticism of cops. that's life, you know? And you're telling me that, you know, it'd be very easy palms to grease. I'm certain of that. Mm-hmm. You know? I mean, you're talking about a place where pretty much anything goes, you know? You're just, it's a party place. You know, so they're not going to care. I mean, they're not. You know? So when I heard that it was, you know, the Virgin Islands was one of his big places for setup, I thought, yeah, of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? Plus, it's paradise. It's a great place to bring all your who want to come hang out. You know? And it's another great place to find poor young girls who have nowhere to go. You know? That's what it's about. You know, this... Again, you know, this goes back to this idea of what I was calling the old conspiracy theory. This stuff going around. This is a bit unrelated, but you know, because I do believe that there are people who try to be whistleblowers out there. Mm-hmm. You know, who can't be though, who are caught up in this, and who don't like it, but yeah, they aren't brave enough to come out and say something because they know what'll happen and they know you can't.
Well, there's probably plenty of people who have been put down because they attempted to.
Oh, I mean, a huge one that they try to write off as, oh, he did this when he was senile, but it's Stanley Kubrick. You know, like Stanley Kubrick made Eyes Wide Shut. A really dumb movie. I thought it was a really dumb movie, and then you realize that no, he didn't make this movie to be a good movie. He made this to expose, like, he had been to those parties. He had seen that stuff. You guys ever seen the picture of Prince Andrew, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Epstein dressed up like that? Dressed up all weird, ready to go to like an Eyes Wide Shut party?
Oh no.
With the weird hats on, weird costumes. Like, I mean, straight out of like the worst fake Illuminati documentary you've ever seen. Or like straight out of Eyes Wide Shut, basically. And it is, they're smiling and they're wearing these creepy costumes, and it's like, God, what are these three about to do? Really? Well, like, what the hell are these three about to go do?
Isn't it the, you know, they quite often flaunt and just have what they do in the open, like you said, they've basically admitted to it. or Ghislaine Maxwell essentially has admitted to it, but they do it because it's almost like, it's like when you're in football and you're running the ball and you just know the defense can't stop you, and you just do it because they can't. It's like they flaunt it because they can, and they know nothing's going to come of it. I mean, look at was it Corey Feldman has come out about pedophilia in Hollywood, and he's still around, but look at him. He's got a pretty bad reputation.
Yeah.
You know, it's maybe people question. He's also, you know, he's had drug problems and other things, and it's like, well, what has he said that's true and what hasn't he? You know, he's just a kook.
Oh, there's a big he has to first go through a huge criticism of, you know, they're going to rip him apart in the media. They're going to discredit him in every way possible.
And as much as any of us might say, well, I want to do the right thing, that's really fucking hard to go through.
It is.
Like you're going to have some nights where you're questioning yourself, like you're going to feel like shit because you just got tore apart.
It's why rape victims don't always want to come forward.
Yeah.
They don't want to take the stand and talk about that.
Yeah.
They don't want to be slut shamed by the defense attorney, especially when they know that the person who did this to them has much more means than they do,
or society.
You know, you're gonna get the prosecutor you can afford, who probably means really well, by the way. You know, you're gonna get a lawyer who's gonna maybe try really hard, but you're not gonna get the guns they have,
and you're not gonna know about all those people out there who are actually grateful for it and just like thanking you because of what you've done. Like you're gonna be on your own, basically questioning yourself and just feeling like crap.
If you guys ever heard that the song Hotel California is supposed to be a whistleblowing thing, exposing this. I've heard that song a million times in my life. I'm a big Eagles fan. Grew up listening to the Eagles. Huge fan of theirs. But some people claim, and I only heard this within the last few months, some people claim that was Don Henley trying to out this behavior in Hollywood, and they've always said that that's just a really weird psychedelic song that doesn't have a meaning, and they always say no, there's no meaning to it. It doesn't, it's just a weird song. But I have to admit, after I heard that, and I've heard that song 1,000 times, after I heard that, I sat down and listened to the lyrics of that song, and I got chills. I thought, holy crap, is that what this is about? You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. This idea that, like, yeah, you can say something if you want. They're gonna kill you. Or you can stay here.
You.
Yeah, or you can stay here and play ball. And another famous thing in that is they even go into the idea of some sort of cult worship or sacrifice. You can stab it with their stealing eyes, but they still won't kill the beast. I don't know. Maybe it's nuts. Maybe that's crazy. I'm not necessarily getting behind that, but I admit I had heard that song many, many times, and when I heard that, I just sat down and listened to it one time and thought, "Yikes! Is that what that was about?" It's the Hotel California, right? It's where everyone wants to be. Until you get there and you find out what's really going on, and then you're stuck. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, being a nut. I don't know. I think you had a little bit of stuff on this, Ed. The idea that we mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell going back to Israel, and we mentioned some of the ties to that. We mentioned her dad was a Mossad agent, and that she had ties to royalty and loose ties to royalty. But yeah, this idea that basically that Epstein was working for the Israelis, that he was a Israeli secret agent or a Mossad agent, and that's why he was untouchable. That he was digging up dirt on everyone so they could operate their secret intelligence or their foreign policy. And then I have a scary point to that I'll try to make maybe afterwards.
I mean, I guess you pretty much just said it. That it's a honeypot to gain information, and there's the connection there. Her father was a Mossad agent, you think she's going to have zero connection to that whatsoever.
Why don't you guys preface what Mossad is?
Oh, okay. Mossad is
CIA.
Kind of like the
basically.
CIA or NSA of Israel. Thank you, Adam. No, you're right. That Mossad is they're I don't want to say the word secret police because that makes it sound like
It's the equivalent to the CIA.
Yeah,
now.
yeah, to the CIA or NSA.
In Israel.
Yeah, in Israel.
So when you have these top agencies in both Israel and the U.S., because you know our agencies, the FBI and probably the CIA, have all of this information. If the CIA doesn't have this information, they're not doing their job.
Well, you see you see how close the United States and Israel is.
Oh, absolutely.
So
that example, especially with with those two countries,
Yeah, I mean they're probably sharing information. If it's not, I don't.
Well, they're sharing information as we speak.
and blackmailing each other, and
I don't even know if it's necessarily based there or if this is just. It could be based here, it could be based there, but obviously they all know what's going on.
What scares the hell out of me about that idea that maybe he was. I mean, it sounds like he certainly had ties to Mossad and to Israel for sure. What scares the hell out of me about that was Epstein just Israel's version of this, and every other country has an Epstein too?
Oh, probably.
I mean, is that why maybe he's not even like maybe Epstein's small potatoes compared to the guy who does this for the Russian government and the guy that does this for the CIA and the guy who does this for Britain.
That's why this is so much bigger
China
than Clinton or Trump.
Right.
Epstein is only one of many Epsteins.
No, he is, and I can't help but think that he fell out of favor and they just moved on. I mean, if this ended with Epstein's death, then where are all the victims? Where are all the whistleblowers? Where are all the people who have nothing to be afraid of anymore? Because he's dead.
It just
obviously it continued. Because again, if you are on that black book, if you are on those flight logs and you have nothing to hide and or you didn't do anything wrong or you didn't know about it, then you have no reason in the world to not come out and clear your name. To not come out and say, whoa, had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. This is news. And that's kind of what Prince Andrew tried to do when he was put on the spot. We knew in his case, he was absolutely positively full of shit, but that's kind of what he tried to do in his interview. Was like, oh, I didn't know that, I didn't I just thought he was a fun guy to party with. I didn't know he was doing all that. Well, you did, you were at all the parties with, and you actually went back to hanging out. That was Andrew's big mistake, was that he went back and openly hung out with Epstein after he got out of prison. And I feel like that's where they were like, that's the guy we got to nail to the wall because he was dumb.
Anybody, I mean, that's a good point, though, but anybody who associated with him post 2010, I think it was, when he got out, you're with a very, I mean, he was known before then, but a convicted pedophile.
Right. And a convicted pedophile that the whole world knows got a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, I mean, because he should still be in jail to this day.
Right.
I mean, that's what it doesn't make. The whole thing doesn't make sense, and not that the media even attempts to explain or make any sense of this. So he goes to jail, gets convicted. Why they even allowed that to happen is why did they even happen? He spends a few months in basically some sort of work release or whatever. It wasn't very long, and
he had to sleep in jail, and it was supposed to be he could leave and conduct business at his home. It was supposed to be a work day, 6 to 8 hours, but it wasn't. It was more like 12 hours almost every day.
Yeah, I think he got to he got to leave during the day so he can go to work at his penthouse office in Florida
and have female visitors.
And and do basically whatever he wanted. And but yeah, he would have to report back, sleep at jail, and then I think spend the weekends there.
In a jail that's probably nicer than everyone's house.
So essentially, he wasn't even in jail. He gets out. Okay, it's public knowledge now that the dude's a pedophile and got off way easier, which is really, really fishy to begin with. Like, there's some shenanigans there. And associates with all these people, continues doing everything that he's doing, and then he gets arrested a second time, and he's in jail, and it starts becoming kind of a bigger story. Like, why didn't he get swept under the rug? Why didn't they just have him get released from jail and just do more shenanigans? But instead, he gets killed in prison. And if they wanted to make this go away, why did they make it go away that way? Like, what went on behind the scenes that caused this whole thing to happen where it actually made a little bit of a blip? It didn't go anywhere, but it made a blip enough to like you said earlier. It's kind of like the JFK assassination. Like, maybe this is going to get some people in because nobody believes this. It's like the official story is just complete horseshit.
Right. This is the highest profile prisoner we've had in who knows how long. Extremely high profile man. And the police officers fell asleep on duty, and the cameras didn't work, and
the odds are. It's impossible.
Ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. The stuff that's going on, that all happened.
Okay, so we all have kids, and the acts that are committed against these kids, we all find absolutely atrocious. And I think if we knew the guy who had done that to one of our children, probably want to kill the guy. However, me, knowing that this guy has done this to thousands and thousands of children, as much as I might want to strangle him myself and suicide him, I gotta realize it's way more important that this dude lives and all this shit gets out so it can end. And I think any sane person who would, because it's not like $10 an hour rent-a-cops they have at this facility. These are like smart guys who work at this prison. They know that too. Nobody is going in there to try and strangle the pedophile. Like, that's anybody who goes into that type of prison is they're there for a reason. You need to protect them.
Not only that, Ed. That would have been easy to sit there and put it on the guards too. Oh yeah, guard killed him.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. They chose to go this different route where, the guard was negligent in watching them, and the cameras cut out. Okay, that's a little too convenient considering the circumstances, but
was it a matter of the elites, whoever wanted this guy dead? Was it a matter of he had a dead man switch? Because that's been my thing all along. Is when you're in this position of power, when you're in the position Epstein's in, you have a dead man switch. You have something set up to where the minute I die, it all comes out. It floods the internet. It hits Twitter.
But it didn't, though.
No, it didn't. And that's where you go into is that why Ghislaine Maxwell's being protected? Is she his dead man switch? Or, and I'm not trying to shut you guys up if you guys have more, or it leads to one other thing as we're kind of coming to a close. And I realize I'm going to lose some people with this, or he's still alive.
You've brought this up before, and I
don't buy it either.
I know you guys don't, but I'm going to mention a few things about it.
He's too dangerous to be kept alive when it comes to.
I understand coming to that conclusion, but I just don't buy it.
I realize that I realize you guys don't buy it. I realize most people don't. Okay, I realize that, and the most important thing is that we're in agreement that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. That is the main thing. But I do want to make a few points on this. And again, I don't want to lose people out there who have been on board with me this whole time. But I do believe a guy like that has a dead man switch. And I also believe that a guy like that has amazing means and has backup plans after backup plans after backup plans. And I certainly do not say this for certain, but I would not be surprised one bit if Jeffrey Epstein is living his best life somewhere on a remote island or hidden on a resort in Israel or somewhere else. And that's where it's going to be. Because you got to remember, too, these guys, yes, he had dirt on all of them. Yes, it's a honeypot. Yeah, but these guys were his buddies. And I just don't completely discount the idea that he escaped from that jail, which wouldn't be hard, by the way. If, the Mexican drug dealer, what's his name? El Chapo. Yeah. If he can escape from the fortresses that they had him in,
well,
with half the means that Jeffrey Epstein has.
Well, he escaped from a Mexican jail. But it was like,
the place that Epstein was in was like a. It was like the high scale jail.
I mean, he escaped from a Mexican jail where he probably owned half of the guards.
He had to dig a tunnel underneath the thing.
Yeah, but how long was that tunnel? That tunnel was already there.
Yeah. I mean, exactly, because he knew that he was going to maybe be in that jail someday. Like Jeffrey Epstein knew that he was maybe going to be
I think the thing with Jeffrey Epstein, like I said, I think he's too dangerous to be kept alive. And I don't think any of these people were necessarily his buddies. I mean, they were associates, but I don't think they were buddies. And I think that when it comes down to it, he's better off dead to protect their secrets than he is to be kept alive and run the risk of...
You may be right. And
running the risk of any of this getting out once again.
It just doesn't make sense, though. If this was his out, why this way? Like, why not just, hey, your plane crashed in the ocean, and then you're off on an island somewhere. Like, there's so many, like...
Well, to me, the smart...
just got drawn
if he was really going to be killed, the smart thing to do would be to Jack Ruby him. To have some guy who claim he's the dad of one of the victims to run up and shoot him in the face on the street. Like they did with Jack Ruby and to Oswald.
I just think it's so obvious that the guy's in jail. He's on trial. It's almost time for him to start talking in this trial. So we need to get rid of this guy now, and we can make it look like a suicide because people commit suicide all the time in jail.
And nobody's really paying attention.
Yep, nobody's paying attention. Let's do this now.
You guys are probably right. But just what stops him from having FBI agents who are on his payroll or whatever show up at the jail that day?
Because I think we're all
with two briefcases with $1 million and a list of the guards' kids' names on it.
Because I think we're all in agreement here that this goes beyond Jeffrey Epstein.
And I'm with you there. I am with you there. I just feel that Jeffrey Epstein was smart enough to have a dead man switch. So either they found a way to... Do
you think Tupac's still alive?
No, I do not think Tupac's still alive. They either found a way to negate that. Maybe, you know what? As much as these guys were monsters, him and Ghislaine Maxwell, they may have actually had some sort of relationship that was loving. Maybe that's the out. Is we're gonna let
hero then.
I don't know. I mean, he's obviously a powerful guy, but I don't think he's necessarily as powerful as maybe you're giving him or other people give him credit for. I think he was just one of the cogs in the machine.
Have you guys seen the picture? Have you guys seen the pictures of Tim dead next to the pictures of him alive? Where the ears like
a while. I mean, it was
where the quite a bit bigger.
I think a lot of things can happen to a body that's been dead.
Maybe. I just I don't know.
I mean, swelling, rigor mortis. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen.
R.I.P. to the poor homeless guy that kind of resembled Jeffrey Epstein.
The question I'd ask is, if he somehow has this dead man switch, who is he going to get behind the scenes to handle all this who isn't part of this swamp anyway already? Like
Ghislaine Maxwell.
I guess.
I mean,
that's able to.
I don't know. I mean, listen, guys, stuff like that happens. Maybe I've seen too many episodes of 24. I don't know, but
He's growing himself in a lab somewhere, and he's going to transplant his brain when the body gets big enough.
Yeah, after Kylo Ren finds him on his hidden Sith planet.
Yeah.
Hey, I know that I lose some people when I when I go there with this, and like I said before, I hope I don't lose too many people, because what really matters is that we all know that he didn't kill himself. And if my harebrained theory is right, that he may be alive and well somewhere, living his best life, with poor Jeffrey, he only has 25 young girls to hang out with instead of 1,000. Getting maybe only one massage a day instead of 4. Massage, air quotes. If my harebrained theory about that is true, it doesn't really matter. If that's the case, we will probably never find the dude. And either way, it's irrelevant. Nothing we said here tonight changes if that's the case.
I almost would say, who cares if you find him? I think what's more important is that basically all these people that were involved with it.
Oh yeah, we need to find his information.
Yeah, which they have. It's going to be, if it hasn't been destroyed. And in fact, I think I heard something about some of the evidence was lost or destroyed or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah.
Really,
nobody will ever know.
Oh yeah, the New York stuff. It was all lost.
If all of a sudden, all of our government in Hollywood, we could just jettison them and hang all of them for their crimes and being involved in this type of shit, but Jeffrey Epstein got away, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, for sure. Just like I would have been okay with, as much as it leaves a terrible taste in your mouth, I'd have been okay with Jeffrey Epstein cutting a plea deal. If we get to nail 50 pedophiles, 50 sexually deviant offenders, 50 terrible dudes, and there's more than 50. There's way more than 50 that he knew about. But if we could have nailed 50 of them and given Jeffrey Epstein another slap on the wrist and let him go back to his
because that would have avalanched down too.
Yeah,
so that would have...
absolutely. Yeah, that's why they do that. That's why that system, as much as, again, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, that's why cops started doing that decades ago. Because they thought, well, we can cut a plea deal with this guy and we can do this. We can nail a whole lot more bad guys by doing it. Even if it just means that, hey, you are out of jail and we're sending some within, 1,000 yards of a school or 1,000 yards of this and this and this. I mean, I don't like that idea. So that is a terrible thing that so many people who don't understand this were critical of when people were sharing these memes and were trying to push this idea that people were mourning Jeffrey Epstein when they were sharing these memes. And I was accused of this. It's like, no, you don't get it. I don't care that Jeffrey Epstein's dead. He's rotting in hell as far as I'm concerned.
No, it was just the fuck. Because when he got arrested, there was that glimmer of hope.
It's about awareness. It's about awareness. It's about pushing this out there so people know who this man was.
When he died, he brought everything with him.
And that's why the 60 Minutes thing was really pathetic. It was just about how Jeffrey Epstein sucked. Well, we already knew that. Mm-hmm. Where are all the other people? I mean, even these women, these poor victims talking, and he would sell me to these elites and these politicians and these these members of royalty. Who? Tell us who.
You ever see the movie Taken?
Yeah.
He was that guy that sat there and sold girls and in France.
Yeah.
And that was,
right, absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is, he was selling people.
God, where's Liam Neeson when we need him? And
probably on the island.
The idea in the narrative being pushed in the 60 Minutes thing was the idea that Jeffrey Epstein was evil because he was getting 3 massages a day from young women and making them do nasty stuff afterwards, that was his worst crime. And it wasn't. It's a terrible crime. It's enough to put him in jail for life, and it's enough to make him burn in hell for all eternity. But that wasn't his worst crime. And he's dead now, so we can't punish him for that crime. It's actually, that part of it is very irrelevant. It's his sex trafficking ring. What happened to, the girls that Jeffrey Epstein kept with him and flew around on his private yachts and went back and forth to Japan and China and the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico and France and London and back to the U.S. I'm not trying to downplay their abuse because it's terrible, but they were the lucky ones. They weren't the ones who got sold off to these elites in other places of the world and are never heard from again. Who may still be locked in a damn dungeon somewhere for all we know.
Buried.
Yeah. Or they're still alive and it's happening to them still. I mean, that's... all the victims should be taken care of, but these ones that they're talking to, they're the ones that made it out. They're the ones that these were the young women that were recruiting for him. These are the ones that Jeffrey Epstein, in his sick mind and sick heart, if he had one, that he kind of liked. That he wasn't selling off to the, monster somewhere in Thailand. Or to the, just evil, deviant freak, who we've never heard of. Some billionaire in Australia or, because that was happening. But that's not who we're talking to. That's not who we've ever... 9 hours on this guy. We could do 10 more shows on this, and we're not going to, but we could. But we've gone a while, and let's go to Pumpkin. Unless you guys, any final thoughts?
No.
Final thoughts, Adam? Anything? No? Let's go to Pumpkin. Adam is holding Pumpkin. Ed's going to pull it out. Ed's going to hand it to Adam. And the next Deep Issues show, which will be when, Ed?
Oh, March 31st.
Okay. Oh, cool. So
it's a
5 Tuesday month. So our next Deep Issue show will be the end of this month on March 31st, and the topic will be, Adam, drum roll.
The Bilderberg Group.
Oh, okay. Cool. The Bilderberg Group. This is a cool one. We have done the Council on Foreign Relations, and I think we did the Trilateral Commission too, right? Yeah. So this is kind of like the...
Epstein was a member of the Trilateral Commission, by the way.
Yes, he was. He was, you're right.
Just showing how interrelated this is.
Yeah. And that's cool. I mean, actually, we didn't plan it this way, but Pumpkin planned it this way, and we would definitely not ever question, but we did them in the right order. To do Trilateral Commission first, CFR next, and to culminate with the Bilderberg Group is actually the perfect way to do it, because that is... the Bilderberg Group, you can argue, and we will talk about this in a couple weeks, but in a lot of ways, the Bilderberg Group is what gives the orders to the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, and these other things. So that'll be an interesting one. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This has been...
What the fuck?
That was not a technical issue. That was Ed wrapping the show up with a hellacious fart. which he could have held in for another 5 seconds as we closed the show, but he chose not to. So anyway, with that being said, we're going to fumigate the studio and be back in this time slot next week for the X-Cast, and we'll be back for our next Deep Issues program on March 31st. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to the Epstein episode. I hope it was informative. We'll see you next time.